Hi folks, Dave Schmidt here. Well, it's Tuesday, March 10th, and as you can see, I'm back out here in one of my favorite spots. It's in one of my little chairs I have out here in my front yard in Sedona. And, well, spring has sprung in Sedona. It's blue skies all around, and temperature has been in the low 70s all this week. It's absolutely wonderful, and it's tourist season here. I had to make a trip into town, into West Sedona, and it's just bumper-to-bumper traffic. Well, March is our busiest month here, but we welcome people. We say, welcome to Sedona. We're glad that you're here. Well, this week I want to address a couple things. First of all, just a couple administrative announcements. Yes, we still have room at the workshop at Dallas this coming Saturday. There's around 10 seats that are left. And then the following Saturday on March 21st, where I'm doing the hosted workshop in Laverne, Minnesota. And there's still plenty of seats that are there. You can go to the website, thesedonaconnection.com, and then that's where you can find out some information. Now, the next thing, I want to make some announcements to make some clarification on what has been happening with the workshops that were put on by Glenn Caldwell, who was my guest on the radio program last week, and the Ambassadors Project Vision for True Peace. Now, first of all, my apologies if there's basically been some misunderstanding. All of us have been extremely busy. When you get the ambassador, myself, and even Ron Van Dyke, in some ways we've kind of almost been all overworking ourselves. We've all come down with various forms of sickness. And I've been sharing with the ambassador, buddy, you just need to slow down a little bit because he's been going so hard. He's been establishing this project, the Vision for True Peace. Now, my program, thesedonaconnection.com, is associated with that. We are not connected to that. What I've been sharing with you about projects that would be available for humanitarian funding, that is totally different from what is taking place with the Ambassadors Initiative with Glenn Caldwell on the Vision for True Peace. Yes, there's some interaction on both, but here's what it is. When I started and was receiving this information all the way back in November, I had shared this with the ambassador, and we had always said these were proposals, not etched in stone. And then when Charlotte and I were on our first trip to China, we had discussed this with the Red Dragon, and he had said yes, he loved the idea. And then we've also discussed this with Mr. A, the ambassador's assistant, and he loved the idea. But the key to all of it is funding. And what Gwen had shared in her workshops and what the ambassador had clarified in their Q&A follow-ups is there's three funding sources. One is the BRICS themselves, which we don't have hardly any association with. The other is the family's funds. And then the third is the ambassador's CBC trust funds themselves. Now, Gwen's project is associated with that. And that project is not necessarily a grant project, but a loan project. Monies are loaned interest-free to help people who want to basically kickstart businesses, etc., and stuff like that. I don't have anything to do with that. Now, what I have been discussing as proposals for humanitarian aid project funding is just that, proposals. And they are dependent upon funding coming from the family. And I've been sharing now for months that money isn't anywhere close to being released. So if I can, my apologies to you if maybe I miscommunicated or if you thought this stuff was going to be happening fairly quickly. May I make some recommendation? Put it on the back burner. This could happen in 2 months. It could take 2 years. Nobody has exact dates on that. And at this time, we don't really know because there are way too many external variable issues to determine when it is safe to release those types of funds. There's a lot of things that have to take place. Could they all fall in place in a couple months? Yes, they could. But on the other hand, it could go on for 2 months, 8 months, 12 months, 2 years. I have no idea. And the ambassador doesn't know either, so don't ask him. Okay? That's the difference. I hope I've made a clarification on that. I will be addressing this a little bit more on the radio program. Now, but where are we going from here? Now, technically, I'm not a part of the team of the Vision for True Peace, but I am totally in support and in believing in what is the ambassador's vision of that. What is peace? Peace is not something that is going to be coming to us when it's out there and we've solved all the problems of conquering the cabal or fixing the earth issues and stuff like that. Peace always starts first as an internal issue. This is something I've tried to share with you. I share this at the workshops. What is it that brings really true peace? It's always a result of how we think first and foremost. I've shared this, I think it was back in October, I did a series of messages on the power of our thoughts and how we think. And those of you who have been to my workshops, you know I have a whole section in the afternoon talking about the importance of understanding the power of our thoughts. If there is anything that can bring this about in a quicker manner, it's not the absence of wars. It's not the absence of earth conflicts and we're getting rid of the chemtrails and we're cleaning up the nuclear waste. Those are all important issues. But what really brings that about is the absence of conflict in our own minds. Because as I've shared with you, and we're starting to understand this more and more, and this is a part of this new science called memetics, our thoughts literally create the experiences that we have. The sooner we come to understand that, the more that we can grasp that, the more we bring that in to be a part of our thinking and a part of our lives, the sooner we will create the shift and change that we want. Throughout these series, and I go all the way back to last summer, I've used this illustration of the metaphor that comes out of the biblical epic story of when Moses leads the Israelites into their freedom. And I've talked about them crossing the Red Sea, and they basically moved into places of wealth and freedom. But remember, money was not their goal, because once you're in the wilderness, what are you going to do with gold? What can you buy with it? It's not something you can go out and buy, because they didn't have forms of, money exchanges we have today. What was their goal? Their goal was moving into the promised land, acquiring land for themselves, having their own families, their own sense of security, their own sense of accomplishment, being able to have a land that was flowing with milk and honey, where they could grow their crops, raise their animals and their cattle, sustain themselves as families, and move together as a group, as a culture of people. The goal was entering into the promised land. But as we know, it was quite interesting. When they crossed the Red Sea, what was in the shortcut, the shortest route was a 2-week journey, ended up being a 40-year journey. Why? Because I've said this before, they still had a slavery mentality. You can't take a slavery mentality into a promised land and experience abundance. There was a huge shift and change they had to go through in their thinking. And there were some of what I call the older generation that were so entrenched into their belief systems, so entrenched to their thought process, they couldn't make the transition. And they didn't get to enter the promised land. And it took a new, younger generation rising up to be able to fulfill that promise. Now, that doesn't mean that necessarily translates today with younger and older, because we are in an era, our shifting and our thinking and our circumstances are happening at rapid speed in contrast to an era like that. But it does mean it's going to be very difficult for any of us to move into a promised land of abundance, a promised land of prosperity, a promised land of giving and prospering and funding and helping others, when we're still stuck in a thought process of old slavery issues. And what are those? Negative thinking, attacking with your thoughts, aggression with your thoughts, hopelessness with your thoughts, thinking this is never going to happen. And can I be really honest? I have no idea how long this is going to take, but everything of history and repetitive pattern shows, some of you will fall away because you'll quit believing. You would rather be stuck in an old paradigm of wanting to attack, wanting to be negative, wanting to be critical, wanting to question, wanting to wonder, when am I going to get my money? Versus coming to the place of peace. See, the place of peace is what correlates and basically moves with prosperity, abundance, healthiness, wholeness, and moving into a promised land. A promised land that is first and foremost in our thoughts and in our hearts, because it's there that the energy that is created from those that changes our external circumstances. We will change our external world when we first change our internal world. Now, I'm going to start a series of messages talking about the healthiness of appropriate thinking. And folks, this is stuff I'm learning myself. Even in these last couple of weeks where this week I've been battling with a deep bronchial cough, and I even had to go into the doctor, and he says, "You've got acute bronchitis." And underneath it all, I said, yes, I could say this is a physical sickness. But you've heard me explain this whole world is a world of energy. Any physical sickness is also a correlation to an imbalance of energy that you have within you. Something you've attracted energetically, something you've brought into yourself energetically, or an inappropriate form of thinking energetically. And so what I did, instead of being mad and angry and negative about this is a physical sickness that I can't do anything about and I got to go to the doctor and take care of all of it. Now, yes, I still did that. But I began to look at the bronchitis as a gift instead of as a problem. I began to look at it and says, there's something here you are wanting me to learn. There's something here you are trying to tell me. There's something here that you're trying to get my attention. And you know what? It was this morning that it did capture my attention. I sat down with a friend of mine, and she has this wonderful ability to read and feel and sense people's energy. And I said to her, can you help me out with this? What's going on? I says, I'm having this really deep sense of feeling that right here, I've got this physical block of a bronchitis, but I think there's something deeper, and it's really an energetic issue. And she did some praying, she did some work, she did some meditation, and she does her job in what is called spiritual response therapy, and she's a master at it. And she came back and she said, yeah, you've got a deep energetic block in there because you've got of some other things that, yeah, in so many words, I picked up when I was in China. But it was an energetic issue, not necessarily a physical issue, because all forms of sickness or disease are always also reflected in the energy we carry within our bodies, is what it is. When she shared that, I thought, yeah, that makes sense. She did some praying for me. She did some what are called clearing of energetic work. And within hours, I'm already feeling the difference. And I've been carrying this for about a week, but it became very clear what it was. So now I had an appropriate ability to address it at that level. When things aren't happening in our lives as we would like them to, it's usually because somewhere in there we're energetically imbalanced, which is basically a lack of peace. What is peace? Internal peace is always when there's the absence of conflict and there's the feeling of totality, the feeling of serenity, and the feeling of oneness. You can talk about peace all you want with words and concepts, but more than anything else, you'll know it because you'll feel it. You will feel peace inside of you. More than anything else, it is known by the energy that it brings into your being. Here's what's interesting this week when I've had this conflict of this bronchitis issue and this coughing that just didn't want to seem to end, I would also have these moments of this very deep serenity of peace. I would just be sitting there, and then the thoughts, peaceful thoughts would come into my mind, and then the next thing I know, literally, I would find my whole face with this warm rush of an aglow feeling, of a soft vibration, of a sense of sensation, and this peacefulness all around me. And it was all in here is where I would feel it the most. And then when I really began to focus on it, I would begin to feel it entering into my body. And myself personally, I had interpreted that in spite of what you are experiencing, there is peace for you. Because what you are doing is clearing some old stuff within you that it's time to clear. And as I was talking with my friend today, she says, have you noticed what is symbolic about coughing? When you cough, what it is, you're wanting to expel and to get rid of something. She says your constant coughing is reflection of your body wanting to tell you it's wanting to expel and get rid of this old energy that you've been carrying for a long time, and it's time to release it and let it go so you can move into a new and greater strength of peace and harmony in your own life. We all have things within us that we've carried for pretty much our whole lives, of old energetic thought patterns that finds itself manifesting in our bodies and in our thoughts in various forms. You see, if we didn't have those, then we would all be in great peace. And most of us, we wouldn't even be here. We would have, in essence, graduated from planet Earth. This is a human condition. It's something I continue to work at. But here's what I can say. I've made this such a priority in my life, I have a passion for it. I have a desire for it. I have a hunger for it. I want to learn about it, and I want to have this be a common, automatic exercise in my life where I spend more and more of my time in that place of peace. Vision for true peace is always first and foremost a vision of what is happening within inside of us. It is there that we will always find the true peace. And when we are in those places collectively in true peace, the energy of peace comes out. And that energy of peace will always begin to dissipate and to get rid of all of the conflict that we seem to appear to see around us, whether it's personal, family, collective, and global, in whatever format it may be. So thank you very much, folks. I'll be sharing some more of this on the radio program on Wednesday night. Hope that you could join us in one of the workshops in Dallas or Laverne, Minnesota. Shortly after that trip to Minnesota, Charla and I should be making, at this time, we are told we'll be making a return trip to China. And with that, it's always in a wonderful, exciting time. So thank you very much. Love all of you. Okay, bye-bye.